is Rob Manfred. Has he actually done some good things for Major League Baseball? He's not all bad. That's all I'm saying. He's not all bad, Jay.
All right.
We're going to talk about that coming up in next segment, but
right.
I want to get to some 49ers chatter with Jack Hammer, 49ers beat reporter for the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. He's joining us here. Jack, thanks for jumping on with Drapes and Jay. First of all, I knew you've been at camp. Brock Purdy, they say, looked a little better today. What did you see from Brock out there today?
Definitely a little bit better today. Yesterday was all about just seeing how his arm was. We hadn't seen him do anything since the NFC Championship game. So he looked, his arm looked good yesterday. Today, you saw him take some more steps forward. He was 6 of 12 during team drills. Take that what you will. But he's getting comfortable as the practice went on. You saw him start to make some more throws. You saw him start to push the ball down the field a little bit more. He's going trending in the right direction.
Jack, everybody's got their eye on the quarterback position. Of course, we've had you on this show a time or two talking about the quarterback position. What was the splits beside Brock Purdy out there when it came to Trey Lance and Sam Darnold today?
It was pretty much the same as yesterday. Lance only had 7 dropbacks today. He had 5 yesterday. He had 7 today. A couple of scrambles. Pretty much the same thing with Sam Darnold. He dropped back 6 times. So not very much action. It's kind of interesting. Brandon Allen's getting all the 3 reps, and so the backup reps are getting split between Lance and Darnold. And right now, like I said, over the last couple of days, they've only, the 2 of them 6 times over the last couple of days. So it's a little interesting.
Jack, where do you see as the future for Trey Lance with this 49ers team? Based on what you're seeing in camp, obviously we got preseason coming up. Where do you see Trey Lance's future at with this franchise?
I don't know how much longer he's going to be in San Francisco. It all depends on what happens with Brock Purdy here. If Brock Purdy continues to progress and it becomes the same guy that he was last season, then you're left with having to decide between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. Then you got Trey Lance on your salary cap next year for almost $11 million. But is there somebody out there that's going to want to trade for him? So I don't, unless somebody wants to trade for him, he's going to be a 49er because they can't release him. So it's a tough one there in terms of the salary cap. Lance had an interesting day today. Started off slow, got a little bit better as the day went along. I'm not willing to give up on him yet. There's still a long ways to go during this training camp, and he looks better from the mechanical standpoint. The throws, it's not all one speed. He's got some touch on his throws now, so that's something that's a change. It's just a matter of he's got to get the reps, and so that's where all these reps going to Brandon Allen and not to Trey Lance or Sam Darnold is a tough one to really wrap my head around right now.
Joined by Jack Hammer, 49ers insider for the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Jack, let's talk about something that kind of crept out from people like yourself yesterday, and that's talking about the people who protect for these quarterbacks, the offensive line. And of course, we know Colton McKivitz and Spencer Buford have definitely been under the gun and under the radar. What's your take on them so far early in the camp?
I really like what I've seen out of Colton McKivitz. He's moving really well. He's got really good footwork today. Nobody held everybody in pass protection, did really good there. It's tough when you don't have the pads on for an offensive lineman, but he was moving his feet really well, doing a really good job with his hands. And he just seems like he's really confident right now. There seems to be an air of confidence when you watch him walk around the field and go about his business. And Spencer Burford comes in and you put in the work this offseason. His body looks different. He's leaner. And, last year he split reps with Daniel Brunskill. So now this year he's going to have to come out and hold the job down on his own. And I would say so far through the first 3 days, he looks like he can do it.
Jack, what's the level of concern regarding Nick Bosa? It seems like everybody expects him to eventually show up. I mean, is there any concern that this could linger on?
I think it's one of those situations where, Nick Bosa doesn't need the 49ers as much as the 49ers need Nick Bosa. He's got money already. He's, well set up. He has a number that the 49ers are going to have to get to, and until the 49ers get there, he's not going to show up. And so from that standpoint, I do think of it as a little bit more of an issue than maybe some of the other players that they've been in this situation with before. Usually these things haven't lingered that far into training camp, and there's no word really that there's anything coming on the horizon with Nick Bosa. That being said, they've shown that they can be somewhat successful without him. In 2020, they were a top 10 defense, and he only played the first couple of games of that season. So we'll see. I think it's a tough one because they don't have very much a defensive end, but at the same time, they have some really good interior pass rushers, and Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave. Javon Kinlaw looks terrific, and so does the other guys, and Kevin Givens in there as well.
Jack, a lot of attention has been given to Drake Jackson, but I want to touch on just the person that you just talked about is Javon Kinlaw coming into last season. I think everyone, 49ers brass, 49ers fans, people that bled the red and gold, they were looking for a big move from Javon Kinlaw. Didn't seem like we didn't get that last year. You said he looks good. What's his whole demeanor coming into this season? What are you hearing out there at camp with Javon Kinlaw?
He looks like he's in really good shape. And the difference right now is Javon Kinlaw is a guy that's fighting for his NFL career, right? He's in the last year of his contract. The Flyers didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so he's going to be a free agent at the end of this season. And the way that he's moving around the practice field so far is completely different than what we've seen, especially over the last two seasons. Last year at this point, he was not participating in all the drills and for different reasons. Right now, he's just out there flying around, whether it's during the individual portion or in team. He really looks a lot better. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a really nice piece of the depth of that 49ers defensive line.
I want to stay on the defense here, Jack. When you look at the loss of D'Amico Ryans, when you look at Jimmy Ward leaving, how does the secondary look? I know it's still listed as a strength for this 49ers team, but from the eye test, what are you seeing down there at camp?
I think the secondary looks really good. I think in a lot of ways, I know the loss of Jimmy Ward is a tough one because he was a leader on this team. But at the same time, he lost his job last year at safety and had to go into the slot and play nickel when he came back. And I think that the 49ers, with the addition of Isaiah Oliver, actually upgraded that position. I think they're better in the slot than they were a season ago. And then Tarvarius Ward looks good and healthy. He's moving around really good. So does Diamador Lenore. The guys on the back end, Talanoa Hufanga, he's flying around like crazy, making plays all over the place. So they have a lot of depth. Samuel Womack, the second-year player, he's been really tight in coverage as well. This is a really good 49ers defense. We know the frontline guys, but their backups are really good as well. Really throughout the defense, whether it's the linebackers, the secondary, or even the defensive line.
The 49ers, Jack, joined by Jack Hammer, Santa Rosa Press Democrat. You were talking about Fred Warner. We're talking about Drake Greenlaw. We know they're etched in stone, but that one that I think I have my eye on is the Oren Burks, Flanagan Fowles competition. What's the look? And I think coming into the season, most people believe Oren Burks is the guy. Does it seem to be like he's already etched his name in that stone to be that starter, or is there a real competition there?
I think there's a really real competition there. Burks was the guy the first couple of days. Today it was Flanagan Fowles. They're going to rotate guys in and out of that with the starting groups and so on. I think you have two veterans there that are really fighting, and there's a couple of young guys also. Don't forget about guys like Marcelino McCurry Ball or D. Winters, the draft pick that the first of the two linebackers that they drafted this year. They have a lot of guys that can fill in there. I would say if I had to give an edge to one over the other, I would say I would probably lean more Oren Burks over Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, but it's close.
How's Deebo looking? And I'm not talking physically with his shirt off or anything like that, but just how's he looking out there so far?
He's definitely in better shape than he was a year ago, so that's positive. He's moving around really good. The one thing, and we've noted this today at practice, they're just not throwing the ball to him very much. It's definitely going more towards Brandon Ayuk. But he did have a really nice catch today from Brock Purdy on a downfield throw, about 25 yards downfield in between a couple of defenders. And, he's a guy who, and that's good for me I like seeing that, because last year I felt like they used him too much around the line of scrimmage on the screens and that kind of stuff. You get Deebo the ball moving down the field a little bit, even if it's just a quick slant. That's so much better than those screens, even though we know he can take it to the house, because you get him going against the second level guys, and he can take it to the end zone every time he gets his hands on the ball. And he looks like he's ready to do that this year.
Jack, I'll end on this. Someone you didn't mention in that back half of the defense is something that I'm excited to see is Jair Brown, their third-round pick from Penn State. How's he look so far?
He's working and trying to build up. I think he's been a little up and down to me. I haven't seen him. I know in college he was a guy who was known for making plays on the ball and those types of things. I haven't seen that from him yet, but to be fair, we have 3 training camp practices that we've been able to see, and then the off-season program, we were only there for 4 of the practices. So we're only talking about seven days. In those 7 days, I haven't seen him really around the ball yet in terms of being able to make a play on it. And I've seen the ball get behind him a couple of times, but it's early. We're day 3, and he's got a lot going on. I'm sure trying to worry about Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Jawan Jennings and George Kittle. So he's got a lot on his plate, and I think as this training camp goes along, you're going to see him start to step up more and more.
Jack Hammer, great stuff as always. You can check him out on social media on Twitter, jackhammer_NFL. He's the 49ers beat writer for the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Jack, thanks for jumping on with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Have a great Friday.